In this episode, we're going to show you how we took our kitchen lighting from this to this. And we're going to start right now.
We've been struggling with our factory hatch lights back here for almost 3 years. Even after converting them to LEDs, it still just wasn't enough.
We put a lot of thought into what we wanted and what we didn't want, and we came up with a plan.
Turns out what we wanted was task lighting, focused right down onto the countertop, on the stove, in the fridge, and not over the entire campsite.
2 on this side to illuminate the counter. On this side, we put 1 right up here to see in the fridge when it's pulled out and to help with the stove. This one we have low and pointed right down on the stove. This one lights up this surface and the fridge.
Now I'll show you exactly how we did it. We started by putting the lights in the back hatch panel. To do that, we first have to take out the panel. We first had to take out the factory dome lights. To do that, you insert a pry tool right on the edge here to release that catch. And then simply unplug them. This is where the pull handle normally hangs. We found it to be more of a nuisance than useful, so we removed it a long time ago. But behind this little plastic piece is a nut or a bolt that you have to take out. Then take your pry tool, insert it between the panel and the hatch, and release all these fasteners that hold it on. The panel kind of hooks up over the lip up here by the window. All you have to do is just push the panel forward and it comes off. We installed 2 of our LEDs in our factory hatch panel lights. That's to reduce the amount of holes that we had to drill in the panel itself, and to give us the ability to easily remove them later. These are the LEDs we used. We provide a link to them in the video description below. We used a brad point drill bit to greatly reduce the possibility of splitting the plastic. Now for the light out here, we did have to cut a hole in the panel. But instead of mounting the light directly in the panel, we mounted it in a plastic plug we picked up at the hardware store. We drilled the hole dead center, inserted the light, then pushed it into place. The wiring harness we made out of these connectors and 22 gauge wire. And again, there's links to all this in the video description below. Now came the fun part. We had to get the wire from the harness behind the panel down to our switch. To do that, we first took out our speaker on the driver's side to get better access. Then we pushed a stiff wire through that opening up through this part of the hatch to this rubber plug right here where the rest of the factory wiring comes through. Then we took our light wiring and taped it to that stiff wire and pulled it through. Then we passed the wire through this rubber tube alongside the factory wiring, and that leads to behind the headliner. And of course we did put connectors on that wire behind the hatch panel and the wire coming to it so we could get the hatch panel back on and off. Now on to putting the light in the headliner, and it's really easy to do. To get behind the headliner, you just simply pull this rubber molding off, and then there's 3 little fasteners right here, pop them out, and then you can pull down on the headliner a little bit, just enough to get your hand in there. The headliner material is incredibly easy to put a hole in it. So because of that, be very careful. We just used a sharp utility knife. Then we put these large diameter nylon washers on the outside and the inside just to make sure that it never pulls through the headliner. For this light, since it's mounted directly into the headliner material, we used a less powerful LED, one that just barely even gets warm. And we really don't need that much light in here. We put a connector on the wire going to the light and then tied into the main wire using a T. Now to finish getting the wire down to our switch. And that, again, we just pulled back this rubber molding. Got our pry tool in here, pried this little plastic panel back, fished our wire through. Then we sent it to behind our panel through a small hole we drilled. Now onto our stove light. Here we used the same type of LEDs that we put up in the hatch, and we mounted it in a little housing that I made out of square aluminum tubing. Now this housing I made is way more elaborate than what you really need. You see, these LEDs are totally waterproof. They're made for being outside in the elements. So you could easily just make up a simple bracket to hold the light. The wire for it comes down and runs along inside the swing out on our bumper down to a hole right here. And this is where it goes underneath the 4Runner. That wire then comes up through the floor through this rubber grommet. Behind the panel is where we tied that wire into our main wire to all our lights. Now we put some duct tape on all our connections just so they can't wiggle loose. Then we put in a 5-amp fuse, and that should be more than enough for the very little amperage that these lights draw. Now no doubt you noticed these black rings that we put around our lights. The lights come with a floodlight pattern where the light just goes everywhere. And because we wanted ours to be more like a spotlight shining down in a specific area, we put these rings on it made out of just some round aluminum tubing.
This is a major improvement over the lighting we used to have, and it didn't cost all that much.
What I really like about it is the light doesn't get right in your eyes or everybody else's eyes.
If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more, consider subscribing to our channel. In this episode, we're going to show you how we took our kitchen lighting, and now I forgot what I was supposed to say. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more, consider subscribing. No. If you like this video, hit the like button.